trying to see. Okay, this is popping up. Okay. And hello. Okay, I need to. Hi, Arian. Let me turn on my video. Okay, okay. People have someone has found it. Let me go and like share the link in the Discord or something. Oh my. Okay, I have the chat popping up in Zoom. That's cool. All right, people. So let me try. I need to, yeah, yeah. How do I get to the stream link now? Hi, Kat. Kat, you're in the Zoom meeting too.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't need this up. So hello, people. Let me try to, geez, this is wild. Okay, we've got a few people on. Let me see how I can okay, why why is Firefox not loading? Oh goodness. Why is Firefox just like not there? Okay, Firefox is over here. Okay. Okay, now we're good. Okay, I need to figure out what happens with okay, so I'm just gonna try to get a few things sorted here because that was just weird. So, um, for people watching, the lake did change uh, because for some reason I'm trying to um, use the native Zoom app, and it just like is completely backwards. And trying to get it to work, I ended up deleting my stream. So, uh, uh, technical failure. New stream link. Okay, and I never actually posted the. Oh. Apologies for this. So anyway, I don't know why that doesn't make any sense what just happened. But let's get back into Zoom and I will present the meeting. I'm going to present things here. Where's the meeting? Where's the meeting? Why is everything so weird? My meeting is minimized. I can't see it. Oh, it's like it's okay. It wouldn't feel right if it all went smoothly. I mean, it's just so bizarre the way that it works. It was telling me that the I hope that everybody who was waiting made it in because like it was telling me that it had like invisible YouTubes on there. It was telling me I had 3 streams when I only had 2. So anyway, let me share my presentation here. Um, and I will put my chat where I'm used to seeing it. Okay, I've got people waiting. Where, how do okay, view that. Admit, admit, admit. Okay, we've got Jake, we've got Eternal, we've got Bib. How are you guys doing? How do okay, view that.
Um, is this working? Okay, now. There we go. God.
Yeah, okay, so before we start, I'll have my presentation up, but I do want to. Okay, that's interesting. Uh, that like jumped into a completely different view. I have no idea what that looks like on stream. But anyway, so this we have the 2024 YouTube Conlang Relay. A few things I want to acknowledge up at the front. The um, the it did not go very as smoothly as I would have liked, and it did take quite a long time to get through the whole thing. And I have learned some things about running a relay that will affect how I run it again next year. So, first of all, several people pointed out the text was quite long, and that had an impact on things. And the combination of the long text plus cat, your language, which is a wonderful language, the inclusion of that caused an issue because I needed someone who was comfortable with Python to decipher it, right? And there
Indeed.
was only one person in the relay who was comfortable enough to run the script and do that.
So
And so
were
I
the
was,
other people eternal?
yeah, well,
I could have
there was
figured it
one
out
person who
making like
volunteered, right? Yeah, Kate volunteered to do that. And so I ended up kind of stuck on Kate, and it was like, after a while, it was like, okay, do I continue with Kate or do I have to fork it before Cat in order to like get this moving? And ultimately, it worked okay. I didn't want to fork it because that would make the playlist complicated and stuff, right? So, number one, I will write a shorter text next time. Number two, I think I'm not going to allow any conlang that requires specialized skills outside of linguistics. Just, just
Yeah, probably a
because,
good idea.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'm fine with curse conlangs, but they need to be decipherable like from the text without like having an extra thing. So I will call that the hop jam rule. But hop jam, so I do want to say hop jam is wonderful for what it was designed for, which was the curse conlang relay. It really pushes the limits of what you can consider a language, and that's really cool. It's just it was not useful for my purposes exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So let's get into breaking it down. So here is my original text. And like right away, now I will do want to say another thing. Bib, you were confused by Tichi and Tiki, right?
Mightily confused, yes.
Yes. And so Ichi it means to see, and I think I forgot it in my glossary. So that's
Yeah,
on
there
me.
was I have to say that whole second paragraph, I went back and retranslated that at least 4 or 5 times, trying to make sense of it, but without knowing what those verbs were, I
Yeah.
could not for the life of me figure out what the intended meaning was. And in the
Yeah.
end, I think what I did was that I assumed that the like tiki was based on ik, which is the modal auxiliary. I thought maybe this is like some irregular form of that, so it has some kind of
Okay.
modal meaning. But yeah,
Yeah. I
that's all
also
I got.
see that I ended up so Ichi needs a postpositional complement because it's intransitive. And also I see I didn't do the postpositional complement on Iki. Iki, I think, is a typo for Ichi. So I don't know how that happened because why would I misspell that particular word? But it may end up in my dictionary. We'll see.
To make a mistake
Yeah.
or to
Yeah.
misspell. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like one thing is that when I've done relays, I've not been too shy about asking people if I can't tell what something is.
Yeah.
And I
I
feel like
very
if you could
strongly
ask like
considered doing that.
if
Yeah.
you could ask
I
like
think
one question to you, the whole relay would have gone a lot smoother.
yeah. I think so so in the future, I just want to let people know I am fine with you asking questions of individual words or individual like grammatical structures. Um, just not something that would give away a significant portion of the translation, right?
I
That
almost went back and like I almost tried watching through Tongues and Runes to try and find the pieces of grammar that I was struggling with,
Oh
but I
God.
thought that would be considered cheating, so I decided not to.
I don't know if it would be cheating, but I think it would take too long.
Probably.
Which, by the way, let me say, I have no idea how people manage to do this in 2 days. I mean, I am a very slow person in general, but this was a really tight turnaround.
Again, it was a
Yeah.
long text. I think the next time I will keep it to one paragraph. And then we will probably be able to get it done in a reasonable time, like within hopefully a month to 6 weeks instead of 3 months, right? Uh, Depending on how many people participate and everything. But I do want to talk to you, Bib, about. So I saw your video beforehand and watched it again, and you made some interesting choices. One thing you said was like you were exactly right about a bunch of things. So on the things you were wrong out about, a lot of it was my typos. And then another thing that you got wrong was you had what was it? Gintis and Ginmengeu You thought they
Menge,
were
that was the other
related.
one,
Yeah.
that wasn't in the glossary either.
Oh, okay. Um, and this is sort of an interesting exercise in limited linguistic data because gindis, so ndis is the postposition, the instrumental postposition, so like with. And then yi is a negative to make without, right?
Hmm.
Yin mengyu, yin is the causative prefix.
Hmm.
Or is it it's just yin menge. Yeah. Cha yin menge ge, right? Yin menge means to animate, causative, and then menge means to live. So cause to live
Mm.
is what it was. So
And I
those
thought it
two
was to
were
die.
not, yeah. Yeah, because you thought it was related to Yindis, right? But it's not. And I
Right.
thought that was fun. But then you deliberately said, okay, I know this is a base 8 system, so the 64s of years, or several 64 years, that's probably meaning like hundreds of years and stuff like that, right? But then you decided, I'm going to translate it literally anyway.
So I would just like, well, okay. First of all, I should just mention from the top that I am slightly physically and mentally ill right now. So
Uh,
if I am even slower and less coherent than usual, that's why. Second, um, yeah, like I said in the video, I really didn't know what the sort of etiquette is in doing these
yeah.
things as to how, um, I don't know, I felt like there was some things that I couldn't afford to speculate about in terms of what the intended meaning was, particularly, yeah, with the verbs that I just couldn't figure out how it all fit together. So, like, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't know how to make sense out of most of that second paragraph. But also, in addition to that, again, I almost asked about this, about how, yeah, how literal I should be. But the only other relay that I'd seen before this point was the LCC-8 relay.
Uh-huh.
And for that, that also got screwed up very early on. And there were several attempts, as I recall, by people to deliberately introduce, well, not even necessarily deliberately, but there were some things that were introduced fairly early on that screwed stuff up down there. Like I remember Eugene O, when they were presenting their torch, they said, just for fun, I decided to rewrite the text as I decided to put it to music. So they
Oh,
completely
okay.
changed the entire syntax of the torch and changed just to make it fit the meter. And then they were like, oh, and I also decided not to send any notes on the grammar to the next person. I just sent the complete unabridged dictionary and just had them figure it out from there. So obviously that's quite an extreme example, but things like that did happen. So I was like, oh, so that kind of thing is fair game.
That's
Um,
that's that's interesting. I think it's flexible whether you want to do more of a cultural translation or you want to be more literal, and it can end up being fun either way. We're just it's something we do for fun. So it's not super strict on that kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I I don't know. I
but
regret a lot of this.
you're fine. No, that is that is what it is. And you actually ended up pretty close to the thing. And then we get to Miles. Miles changes it quite a bit, but there's some interesting things. Like as a result of you just going with Harry Stick instead of
Ah,
like doing Broom, we ended up with a moss-covered log, which
yeah,
stayed
God.
in the relay for a while. Okay, I need to. Is there a way to uh, let's let's get Agma in here, admit Simulanger, who has a confusing name. No, that's just his name anyway. Um, but yeah, Miles was still pretty close we have the numbers popping up. Well, I don't know why it's 76.
I think
Um,
that Miles is probably so.
Yeah.
I co-created Yatlao with Miles, so we have like a different base system, and
uh-huh.
I my guess is that this system going is been left in Sexamal,
Oh, okay.
I
Oh
Okay.
think.
God.
Although I think that would then make it bigger, wouldn't it? But anyway.
It might
I
just be
don't know.
my dyscalculia. I just got the numbers wrong. That's entirely possible.
Um, but yeah, so we had that, and we had, we did have 512 in there. Uh, and like it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it has a lot of the same elements in there. I
I
don't know.
was I was very impressed with what
Yeah,
Miles managed to do.
I don't know where the shovel came from. Like the
I
house
think
came,
yeah.
the layer became a shovel.
So the reason why I picked Elothwy is because I think Elothwy is very fun to translate because it's so compositional in the way that it builds up meanings. Because basically every word is a very short, very simple verb root, and then you stack affixes onto it to change its meaning in various ways. So the word that I went for cave was yeah, it's
I'm sorry.
Sagindile, I think. Hmm?
Okay. Sorry.
Um, yeah.
I, sorry. I missed a piece of what we were saying.
Oh, the word for cave in my text. I translated basically the word in Alothwi means a delving into a flat surface. Like the core verb root there means to perforate or to like to tunnel into something. So a cave is
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, something that has been delved into a rock face. And then
Right.
I guess Miles might have interpreted that as something that does the delving rather than the thing that is delved.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a possibility. Um, that's that that makes sense. Um, the exchange came back to a payment. Um, and like so we ended up with David. I don't know what happened, and I don't think he's gonna join because he's
We have worked
um
this out in the Discord.
you have.
So basically, when you see what David in David's video, he shows his document where he was passing the Yat Lao. And what he hasn't done is uh, bothered to work out when something's being used as a grammatical form and when it's being used as its original noun, because Yat Lao is very analytic. And so
Okay.
all of these things look identical. So every river is a classifier for an abstract process.
Oh, he interpreted your
Oh,
classifiers as nouns. Oh, oh, and then we
That's
get
where the
rivers out
rivers
of
are from.
nowhere. Okay.
And the growing is from a correlative construction, which is
Okay.
grow something, sprout something, like plant or grow, sprout. So, and David knows about this because we've told him about them, and he said that it was a cool derivation.
But
And
then and he complained about it in his video
mhm.
because he's like, I don't know what's going on with the grammar. The documentation needs more.
yeah,
Now we
and
know.
also David famously hates classifiers. We tried to get him to use them in the Beaver language, and he fully like rage quit on them because he got so frustrated.
What? I mean, I don't know. Classifiers aren't that hard to use, but anyway.
To be fair, we use them more like they're done in Vietnamese for Yat Lao.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so they have a lot more, they show up a lot more, which is
Oh,
again why
really?
you have all these nouns showing up.
Yeah, Juno, that problem was fixed. So what happened was, David originally recorded his video as a YouTube live stream, and then he went and he made that public. The problem is, I when I am adding other people's videos to a playlist, I can't mix videos and live streams. Um, for some reason, I think I can do it with my own videos if I tag it as part of the live stream when I create it. This live stream should be in the relay video, the relay um, thing. But it's like arcane rules of YouTube is like you can't do live streams, other people's live streams and videos in the same playlist.
Do not want to
So
know the fact that goes into that.
That's
yeah,
so weird.
Was God.
but anyway, he had to download it and upload it as a video, and now it is in the playlist if you go watch it again. So you will be able to, you won't have the weird skip over. He does rant a bit in there about things. Um, if you so at the beginning he's like, oh, the 2024, oh, the 2023 relay. That was because in my original email I said the 2023 YouTube Conlang Relay, and then somebody pointed it out, and I changed the subject of the email to the 2023, no, 2024 YouTube Conlang
So that's
Relay.
why I see.
I can't show you the emails because it would show other people's email addresses. I'd have to anonymize that, but that's where that comes from. But I will say, speaking for David slightly, the addition of Druid makes sense here because, like, I had originally, like, archmages. It's like generic magic users. Instrafu just means dreamer. And so with my dream metaphor for magic, it could mean basically any magic user, right? And in my mind, it's mostly like wizards that I'm thinking about, but it could be anything. But in the world of the Shannara Chronicles, druids are not like they are in like D&D. They are some sort of akin to narratively the role that Gandalf plays, although I think they are not like angelic beings. I think they are humans still, but they are extremely powerful magic users that are like working to guide people around. So it kind of makes sense to use Druid in this sense. Agma Schwa,
Hello, can you hear me? Hi.
yes. Do you have any questions, anything you want to talk about with your torch?
Yeah, so I mean, we're pretty much at that point, right? Yeah, I was handed a DJP's Noah Loth text. And honestly, like his summary was pretty good, right? I got a pretty good summary on like the basics of the language's structure. And I wanted to challenge myself and specifically challenge Eternal afterwards by choosing Alkin as my language, because I figured that out of the various languages that I've made for my Dog Days world, like for my comic, I figured Alkin would probably be the one that was the most difficult to translate, specifically because of the way passive constructions and adjectives work in the language. There's a whole bunch of different ways, tenses as well. It had a bunch of different forms. Yeah.
I would
So
like to
I hope you
just
had fun with it.
I would like to just point out the fact I find it very amusing that in your video you spend a fair bit of time hedging and saying, oh, you know, I've probably botched this up. This doesn't make any sense. I've probably made so many errors. Whereas yours is almost word for word exactly what David had. So
I was very surprised to see that. I was extremely surprised to see like that it actually turned out pretty accurate. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it turned out pretty decent.
Yeah.
So I was pretty proud
did
of
pretty
myself
well.
on that
Yeah.
front.
You have druids in there. You have a vision.
Mhm.
It's interesting that dreams re-enter things because like that was one metaphor that Bib didn't pick up and translate literally.
I
But
think now, see, I can't
Well,
remember because I distinctly remember because I knew beforehand that the word dream and magic had that polysemy going on, and I
yeah,
thought that I'd consistently translated it as to use magic, but
okay,
well, DJP's text specifically, like in the gloss that he provided, it specifically had words defined as dream in it. So I just took that and I directly translated dream, that whatever dream word that he provided me, into Alkin, and just went from there. Same
yeah,
with
yeah.
druid. I had to kind of make up a word for druid because that didn't exist. There's not really a concept for that in Alkin, like in the Dog Days world in general. I don't really have like something that would specifically correspond to druid. So I kind of I created that out of merging a couple old Proto-Cern roots that had to do with like trees and spirits, and I just kind of mashed that together and created a new root out of it. It just went
Yeah.
from there because I was running out of time. I was like working on that translation for so long, and I left that for the last. And I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do for this? And I just kind of gave up, and I just went back in time and retroactively created a concept related to
Okay.
like tree magic.
Okay. Also,
Good.
did David also introduce the hands being ripped off?
Oh
Right?
God, yeah.
oh yeah,
And
And
yeah, this torch went very dark very quickly. There's a
yep.
little bit of
did.
darkness in my first one, but I didn't have like graphic violence involved in the original.
It was like some
I
of them were really dark, like especially by the time like Kate translated it out of like Gopjam. We'll get to that later. I was like, holy crap, this is dark. This
I
has
mean, mine
gotten
was already pretty
very,
messed up with hands being torn apart and stuff like
yeah.
that.
The hands being torn asunder. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that was probably my fault. The what was I going to say? Oh yeah, also that the numbers have completely disappeared by this point, which is probably for the
Numbers
best.
are gone. We lost it somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, how did that happen?
it's a little unfortunate actually. I would have loved to see those numbers mutate and people interpret them in different bases and all kinds of things, but they kind of just like dropped off. Yeah. But so we have that and it worked. It's starting to not make much sense.
Yep.
I
Starting
think
to.
Starting.
Yeah.
and so Eternal, I think Eternals is actually pretty close to Agma's, but you
Well,
guys work together a lot, so you may have had some familiarity.
well, okay. I didn't know too much about Alka, and I think the main thing I got wrong was the tensors because I had no idea how any of the perfective constructions were supposed to work. So everything that was like a pluperfect in Agma's text, I translated as something else because I think he had like you had dreamed, and I have your dream appears to have included or something like that. And then eventually I just
Okay.
gave up on writing appears to have because I just used the simple past tense or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of that is because like in Alkin, the way that the verbs are conjugated, there's some conjugations for strong verbs are essentially circumfixes that also alter the main root. But whenever they're in past tense, the first part of the circumfix gets slapped onto the past tense word essentially, and then only the second half of that conjugation remains on the original verb.
Hmm.
And when that happens, it looks almost identical to one of the perfect constructions. It's
I see.
all I said was just like good luck with the perfective
Yeah.
construction. Just
Yeah.
Another thing that I struggled with was the third person impersonal or inanimate or whatever it's called. Because I
yeah,
had no idea
Oh.
what you do with that thing.
yeah.
Like
that
Doc
one's
said
pretty
it could
similar.
also be an infinitive, so I'm like, which one is it? What am I supposed to do with this here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had fun.
And then you translated into um did you hear that? Okay.
It adds to the
somebody's having
violent
a
team
moment.
to relay, honestly.
So, and you translated into Ultra French,
Yep.
which Schwar was complaining about having to deal with.
Yeah,
So
understandably.
Ultra French. Let's talk about what Ultra French is really
Sure.
quick. It's so it's like a future evolution of French, right?
Yeah, essentially, Ultra French, if you're not familiar with it, it started out as this meme about how I think Quebec French is actually 125% French, so it's more French than French itself. And there's like, I think it was a Reddit post from a while back that goes on about how Ultra French speakers communicate with telepathy and all of that. That's like a big copy pasta, part of which I translated for the original Ultra French video. So if you watch that, you'll see that's where that meme comes from. And then we basically took inspiration from that and turned that into a cursed conlang, basically by just starting with French and sending it through like 30, 40 sound changes and mangling the grammar just horribly. And the result is Ultra French. And the thing about Ultra French is that it has like very weird grammatical constructions. Like it has some of them are just hard to translate literally, because one thing that it does something similar to Latin where it has an accusative with an infinitive, but sometimes that's combined with something that requires a subjunctive, so you end up with something that's morphologically a subjunctive infinitive, and it actually makes sense in some cases. That's the worst part.
Oh man, yeah. Ultra French is a beautiful thing, and it evolved like Eternal and Anwan like have evolved at like 3 times more than how it was in the original showcase. At this point, it's like it's entirely taken a life of its own.
It's amusing that like in the video you mentioned like we're giving up on doing limited grammar notes. We're just going to send the entire grammar to Schwar.
I did do a few notes, but the problem with Ultra French is that you kind of have to understand so many concepts, because one thing about it is it has everything pretty much, or most things for verbs are circumfixes. And there's also lenition. So sometimes it is really hard to figure out what the actual verb is if you're not familiar with like how all of the things combine. And there's horrible coalescence rules that are different for some reason in every tense. So like just figuring out what a word even is can be a bit hard.
Okay.
But there is a dictionary that includes every word at the end of the grammar. And I did provide a few tips. I sent him I think I sent you the document too for that with like a few hints, like basically look at this. And I think I mentioned it in my video. I hope I didn't make him read the entire grammar.
Okay, I just want to stop and talk about chat. We've gotten lots of great comments through the YouTube chat and everybody like talking about how the relays work and talking about like all of the things. And shout out to the ArtDev124, our only chatter on Twitch, who I am very sorry that you have dropped into the middle of this not knowing what's going on. Hopefully you can catch on. Moving on, but Schwar is not here to defend himself, I think. But I think this was pretty close. We are now burying a tree in moss rather than
a log.
Also, the river is a child now. In this vision, that child river.
Yeah. I mean, it was for me. It was I translated it as river baby. I think so.
Yeah, the river baby. But now it's turned from a baby
that could
from
be
the river.
inspiration moment. River baby could be a great term for a tributary, or a stream, or a creek.
True.
Stuff like that.
True.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the way it's in Ultra French, what it means literally is the river is the modifier, so it is really a baby that's like a river.
Okay.
It's not a baby river; it's a river baby.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's what I got out of the Alkan text, at least, and I translated literally because I was like, okay, I do not know what this is supposed to be, but we also have druids both being against and in favor of prophecies, so I'm not
Yeah, there's some
in order to ensure the
contradictions.
prophecies, and then druids do not want prophecies. Which one is it?
Yeah, I don't. And the blind thing has carried through and caused very interesting things about like I don't know. I don't know how prophecies work in this world. I don't know how anything works in this world. People tearing hands off and seeing prophecies.
Just like the concept of tearing off one's own hands is just like paradoxical implicitly. Like how do you get the second one off? Like
Yeah. I also got something else wrong about Agma's text, where I translated a phrase, something as "I flow to torture this river."
yeah.
Which, don't ask me what that's supposed to mean.
I float.
I think it was supposed to be "I torture in order to make the river flow" or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Okay.
And
I think it was like I torture in order to ensure the river's flow. Something like that. And then turned into I flow to torture this river.
Yeah.
Also,
So
the tree log, because he mentioned that that's because the Ultra French word for log is literally tree log, so it contains the word for tree. So we probably got confused by that one.
okay. Now we have Simulanger with a Dolini. Anything you want to talk about with that?
What is in the back? But anyway, it's very interesting seeing how things go. So I did like 2 English translations. So this is the translation. I did like one like very faithful translation of Schwartz's text, and this is that. But then I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So I did like another English translation that was kind of just putting this in my own words. Still trying to be very faithful, and I think I was somewhat faithful, but and I also put that one in my video. But it was somewhat different in that like it actually made sense to me narratively. Like the pronouns had reference and stuff like, and yeah, it made sense. Like there's some sentences here I was just very confused about. Like definitely the torture thing. I must perform torture in order to stop the child's hand from being torn apart. Yeah.
Why did this torch get so messed up?
I think it's just like
I need to like do something that is like very happy about butterflies and rainbows, and hopefully it won't be turned into something so dark.
I'm trying to find my like second English translation. I put it in my video, but I'm trying to figure out what I said. Oh, I sent it to you. Okay, I said in okay. I don't think I changed that much, but I did change like druid to wise fisherman because I didn't, since the magic had basically escaped the story by this point. I didn't, as a cultural translation, I didn't really see any need to have magic in there. So I just thought the druid was supposed to be this like old like grandfather figure. So I just translated as wise fisherman. But
oh, okay.
yeah.
I guess that works.
But then apparently I think it became old man later. So maybe
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll move on. Jake.
So I also have 2 translations, and you have the one that's nearest my text rather than Simulanga's. So there's a whole step on this that's like got missed because Simulanga's is more like the one before, and mine is like after. So everyone was like, where did the anaconda come from? And is it gnocchi?
yeah.
There's a spirit god that's a snake.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how old this is in the text. So I'll just make it an anaconda.
So it said, I think Schwarz said divine vision. So I had to like, so divine translated as like
So
from,
the divine vision came from a spiritual snake, huh?
yeah.
So
I did work out where the planting came from,
yeah.
which was it was something like make stand or something. And I think I went with plant because of the whole forest book situation that was in there. What else? I don't know.
I think
I think I don't think I did too badly. I'm worried
yeah.
that my grammar maybe messed things up more following it.
It was interesting that you said in your video you deliberately chose anaconda knowing that cat encodes everything in classical Chinese as part of the Gopcham
Yeah.
translation process, which will not have a word for anaconda. And so I think we can move on to cat. Anything you want to add here? You can watch their video to know exactly how Gopcham works. Basically, Gopcham is kind of a cross between a language and an encryption algorithm. It distributes the meaning of the whole text across all of these characters.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, one thing thought was quite interesting was what where Jake had they couldn't escape, like the third paragraph, like, but then for some reason how like I translate, I got they could escape, which is really weird. So the previous sentence was branches have torn apart the dear children, and then they were able to escape, and I was like, wait, what? But I still kept it in.
Yeah. The negatives get flipped. I think negatives get flipped a lot in these things, especially if the negative construction is a little confusing. There is only one that I've actually participated in, and the negative construction was so weird. It was like a disfix
Oh God.
that I had no idea what I was doing with that. I don't know why you would do a negative disfix, but it seems like constructed to be unclear. Anyway, that's not something related to this. By the way, to fit this on the slide, I tried both the romanization, the Dutch-based orthography, and the Chinese orthography, and this is what I had to do. I am sorry that there is no Chinese font that will look good at this size.
Looks like an ASCII art.
Yeah.
It looks like random dots in there.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of Chinese fonts, but they don't work for this.
No.
And one thing I want to say, one thing as they were translating, Kat was talking in Discord about this and talking about like how big of a problem this was, and talking about a matrix of what was it, 16,000 by 16,000?
1,515.
It was not that big.
Yeah.
It's I was an order of magnitude off. Okay, so over 1,500. I was like, what? Did you put the whole thing in one tree? And like, yes. And that's when I understood that you don't even go sentence by sentence in Hopjam. You have to put the entire utterance into one dependency tree that translates into one numeric matrix.
Yeah.
That's a cursed Conlang winner right there.
I remember him explaining after he did the translation of the first three sentences of the B movie script that actually those aren't actually the first three sentences, because if you were to translate the entire B movie script, the first three sentences would be different.
Yep.
So it's not actually the first 3 sentences of the B movie script.
Though,
God.
though I saw in a comment they said that actually what happens after those sentences is like someone else talking. So mm, those three would actually be like one utterance instead of the whole script being one utterance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think you could break it up by turns,
Good.
but this is another reason why having a long text caused problems.
Yep.
But yeah, like in the kind of the what happened when I was translating, I think I was like kind of the first person to like really take a long time, and
Yeah.
I think like most of it is really just my fault because that like when I got the torch that time, like I was pretty busy with real life stuff as well, but also
Yeah.
there's a problem that and I basically had no documentation for like the grammar of Hopjam, so I had to like then write out the documentation, then also like write
Oh
God.
gosh.
write the actual script to because the text was so large, I couldn't like kind of manually write down like the cases of each character. I had to like write a script to translate
Oh.
from like a I guess format of the like I had kind of a notation for it
Yeah.
to translate it into like the CSV file, then to feed it into the actual Hopjam uh, code. So that also took some time, and then
Yeah.
also figuring out like how to speed up the
Yeah.
matrix construction. That also took some time.
That's
So
that's so great that you had to optimize your code in order to even do this.
yeah, but the great thing about having to optimize my code is that I got like a 1.2 million times speed up on the code, and I had like half of the video for the relay video. Half of it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
talking about
Yeah.
how I sped up the code, which
Good.
is
yeah.
great.
I did not understand what was going on exactly, but I am very glad that you managed to make your code incredibly efficient.
Yeah, but to talk about like the actual translating, I think what was interesting was how there's a thing of like ignorant or like some word like near the end, but then that turned into blind, and then when it got to I think Jake, it was like blinding, like blindingly um, sad, but then when it got to me, it became like dazzling, so it's like as in like bright.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. The dazzling sad future. That is a that is an interesting thing to have.
I think that might
Um
have been because of me. I think
yeah.
my word for blind is related to my word for sun or something.
Oh, that could
Uh,
make sense. That's interesting. Like your etymologies can end up feeding into these things.
And I believe it
Um,
becomes sun again later.
yeah.
Oh God.
yeah.
And the ignorant thing is Yatlao, because blind is ignorant in the sense of you can't you're not aware of something.
It's a common metaphor, useful to exploit. We have Kate. Kate, you are in, Kate is in the YouTube chat. Do you want to hop on the Zoom call and talk about anything? Um, Kate, Kate was um, the one who followed Kat, and the one who had to follow Kat, who because uh, I need to.
Yeah, she was able to do like the
Yeah,
Python code thing.
yeah, she was the only one who did the Python. I'm sorry. I am going to check. Okay, I just had to check her pronouns because I'm trying not to like misgender people today. Um, um, she went in and she had to be the one because she was the only one who said she was comfortable with Python. Originally, Jesse Peterson was going to follow Cat, but she did not. She was not comfortable with Python, and I moved her. And an unfortunate thing about how this worked out is that Jesse ended up having to drop off because by the time we got to the end, Jesse was very busy editing her textbook. And she was like, I won't be able to touch this for 3 weeks. And I'm like, we're coming up on the end of the year. And I guess I have to, I guess I'm going to have to drop off Jesse. It's not fair, I think. And that's why I'm going to make sure we have a shorter text next time. But I think I'm going to put Jesse up at the top position next year, right after me, so that she definitely will be able to participate. And other people who dropped out were Amaiguri, who dropped out just for reasons related to her life that are unrelated, and Linguistics, who, see, originally in my intro video, I was going to read the names of all the languages. And Linguistics had a language that is expressed through exercise routines. And I was going to do a whole big thing where I just disgustedly get up from my desk and go film in another location, tear off my shirt and get in an undershirt and do the push-ups and drink the Gatorade, which I bought and was holding on to. And that, unfortunately, by the time I got to the end of it, was not possible to include. So, like, when Ren dropped out, I pulled the Gatorade out of my desk when I was keeping it and started drinking it. And my wife, like, works right across from me. She's like, where did you get that? Where are you drinking? Like, and I had to explain to her that I bought Gatorade to pronounce the name of a language.
Oh, God.
That's amazing.
It would have been Magpie. It would have been hilarious. But unfortunately, it wouldn't fit. And eventually, when I did read all the names, I realized that it was dragging. It was messing up the pacing of the video. So I deleted that. I'm like, people will find out who was in here through the playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kate does not seem to be joining us, but Kate did that, and I think Kate ended up being pretty faithful. For Burial was she sort of turned it into a poem, I think.
Yeah, good.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, that's how she interpreted it. I was talking to her a couple days ago before we did our little we played Lethal Company. We did a Lethal Company live stream on Schwar's channel, and Kate gave me a little sneak peek and explained it. I think she interpreted it as being best visualized as a poem from the chaos.
Oh, okay. By the way, Simlanger, see ya. See ya. I missed when you sent that chat, but glad to have you on for a moment. So, and then Kate sent it on to Babbelingua. And
God.
so Anaconda became Water Snake because that's the only way you could do it with classical Chinese characters.
Yeah.
And then
also,
Kate picked up the
Anaconda
Water
is just-
Snake, and Babbelingua turned it into "Oh fish, a snake which sowed in the forest." And I don't know why.
Good.
Oh, fish.
Oh. Good.
Oh my God.
Honestly, Wall was the most disturbing conlang for me on this entire relay. God.
Yeah.
Spoken
the wall
entirely,
language is awesome.
it's entirely spoken within
Yeah.
a wall in a house.
Yeah.
And it was interesting hearing how Babalingua sort of culturally translated things in order to have something for river and all of these things that these creatures apparently would not ever experience. Oh,
I like
okay.
how the parents want.
Kate is in chat and has said that the water snake actually in Néron ended up being O fish snake. So that's probably how we got O fish a snake, right?
Oh my god.
Um, I feel like
The big leak. And it's unfortunate because we get to space dirt and none of that seems to have gotten into space dirt. He's not talking about like pipe leaks or anything. It's still rivers and stuff. So
Just
space
hard.
dirt has not taken Biblaridian's tack of just literally translating things in ways that make it weird.
I feel like
Space dirt.
my favorite part from the which one from Babalingua's one was how Stick turned into 2x4. I wanted to bring that one up.
It was a 2x4?
Yeah, because they had no word for stick, so he approximated it with the closest thing, which was 2x4.
The stick is not mossy anymore, is it? Where is the stick?
The stick is somewhere where it's in the third paragraph here. A stick kills 2 children.
Oh, where did that stick come from? Because that's not my stick.
Another stick. Oh no.
Well, I don't recognize his stick.
I also am kind of disappointed that no one. Hi, how you doing? Okay, you go upstairs, see mommy. That was Dorothy. She is 3 years old.
Amazing. Hi, Dorothy.
How did a stick kill your children? I don't know what's going on. It is. Does anyone know? Because no one has mentioned it ever. Where my reference to animating brooms comes from?
Is it like the fable of the Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Yeah, it's like yes, it's a Disney reference, Fantasia.
It's older than that, but yeah.
But yeah.
I thought it was because my wife and I are watching all of the Disney movies in chronological order right now. Like we just started and we saw Fantasia like a few days ago for the first time, and I was like, oh, a living broomstick. I was like, there it is. Okay, it's got to be a reference to that.
I was thinking about throwing up a picture of Mickey Mouse with a broom in my video, and it was like, I don't know. Do I want to risk it?
Instantly,
It probably
copyright
would be
struck.
okay, but
Also, fun fact for anyone who doesn't know, that story goes back to, I think it's a ballad by Goethe originally.
oh,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, I did not know that.
okay. Bury the forest with the earth means make a burial with forest dirt. Yeah. So burying the forest was a weird thing at some
Bury
point.
the forest.
That would be a challenge.
Uh-huh.
I like how by the time it had gotten to me, the second to last sentence was just a phrase that just said like "hear me" or something. And it looks like
that
the
was in the
final
original
result
text.
of that is "this is why I speak to you" or something like that.
So
Unless it's just gone.
Oh, okay. Well, so that made it through a lot of it. And if we go back to mine, that was introduced here by me, Katag here. And the reason I did that is we have a long sentence that ends in a prohibitive. And when that happens, what I do is I add some tag in the front that's either katag or kachae, stop, right? It's a command to listen or to stop, and so that somebody will listen through the end and get it, whether if it's a prohibitive or an imperative here, they will get that it is one, right? It's a discourse tactic that I developed specifically when I was doing this text, because I'm like, oh, my imperatives are all at the end of a sentence. And if you get a long, complex sentence, you need to know that it's an imperative before you get there. It's something I got from Japanese does something similar with negatives, because they have a similar problem with the negative all the way at the end. So they have sometimes discourse strategies to have something at the front that will signal that the sentence is about to be negative. And then that ended up being through a lot of the torches of as a command, hear me, listen to me, and stuff. And it's interesting how that little discourse strategy I employed ended up affecting how other people interpreted things.
Yeah. It's still Hear Me by Eternals one. What happens
Yeah,
after
it is
that?
still Ultra French, and it is still Hear Me in my translation too. I translated it with an
Yeah,
imperative.
we have hear me, and then
Yeah.
hear ye
Hear
in
ye.
Schwar. And here we have so listen from Sinlanger.
Okay.
And then by Jake it says, thus I am saying to you, which I guess you're trying to do like some similar sort of discourse thing and using your own phrase or something. I don't know. And then it's still, thus I am saying to you, because of this I'm now telling you. Because of this I say to you. So that now we're like elaborating it more. And then this is why I speak to you. So it's sort of switched to like I'm explaining the reason this previous stuff is the reason I talk to you, instead of just like listen up.
It's like those memes from a few years ago where there'd be like one basic sentence and then it would be like 5 different panels of increasing complexity of the statement. Where it goes from one word to like
It's interesting what sort of grows out of the mutations as you go on. But I want to thank everybody who participated. First of all, it's been really great, and I also want to thank everybody who's been watching the streams. The reception has been huge, and it's like the biggest video I have made thus far is the intro to this relay. And I'm really happy with the response. And I've gotten lots of nice comments of people excited to go look through, or somebody commented, oh, I saw an anaconda in Kate's and I went back to see where the anaconda came from.
Yeah.
And it was really, it's been very spectacular, and we will do it again next year, just with some changes and some clarification on rules to make things go a little bit faster. I think, yeah. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everybody in the chat too. We've got a nice, very positive chat here. Yeah. Jonathan, I thought about closing it out myself with Ndakaga, but like the thing is, I was receiving the torches every time, so I knew where it was going, and so like at the end, I already knew what like Space Dirt had, so it wouldn't make sense for me to retranslate it. Maybe if we do it totally hidden the next time, I can come back with Ndakaga and try to decipher whatever the last person decided to do. I kind of like making the initial text more than I like participating. Because like I get to set things up and I'm not like trying to puzzle through and decipher somebody else's language.
I would like to apologize again for screwing things up from the very first leg.
Well, but that's the fun of it, though.
Yeah, that's half the
When
fun.
it gets screwed up, then you introduce mutations that end up changing things. There's an aphorism that like every Conlang relay ends up being a creation story. Uh, I don't think this is a creation story, but it's some kind of very strange legend.
Yeah, it's definitely a myth. It's got
Yeah,
lots of mythical elements in there,
Yeah.
with the
Certainly,
descent of the wise
We did
fisherman.
not end up with hands being torn off at the end, which I'm kind of thankful for.
But we did end up, the dazzling bit became my child was born at the time the sun ate wisdom.
Very long, very long. I have a feeling that the hairy stick is going to become a meme.
the hairy stick. Oh God! It just
I'm just like thinking, how do I do broom? And I'm like, well, it's not going to be a root because dragons aren't going to use brooms. So I'm like, and they don't like borrow things from humanoids. They think they're above humanoids, so they're not going to borrow from their languages. So it's like, okay, it's a stick that has hair on it, so we'll call it Hagikiitin, a hairy stick.
But I was so confused because it was like, okay, fairly, well, not normal text, still completely confusing. Then suddenly we have druids, and then it ends with, and you buried a log with much more. And it was like, what the hell does this have to do with anything that came before it?
Yes.
Literally.
And it was, I will say, it was super logical to interpret hairy stick as like a moss covered stick, right? So I see where we
Yeah.
got from hairy stick
Yeah.
to
The worst part
moss
makes
covered
sense.
log. It makes a ton of sense. Where that went after that is like difficult to trace.
I think in mine it was like burying the hands that you've just torn off of yourself
Yeah.
into a mossy log or with moss. like you're burying the hands that
The
you
whole
just
middle
tore off
of
of
it is very
yourself.
abusive to
into-
hands, and I don't know what
Yeah.
that could mean.
Yeah, that's
I don't know what that
I also
There's
had
just
at the end-
something. It's like cosmic horror. Thinking of just like
Yeah.
the physics of just tearing off your own hands. I can't get over that part. And then proceeding to use things that require using your hands to then
It would
bury those
make a
hands.
really good episode of the Magnus Protocol or the Magnus Archives.
Yeah,
because-
literally.
Yeah,
Probably
I-
associated with the flesh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, Agma had buried. He was burying the hands, and I interpreted it as, I think I literally wrote, and he took up a shovel with all your hands, all of your hands, which is such a weird thing to say. How many hands are there that you need to say all instead of both?
Yeah, really. You had extra hands to spare after tearing the first two off.
Why did this happen?
You're just like some Lovecraftian beast. God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Tearing off the hands. I can see how like sort of killing children came up early because Biblaridian translated dragon as a creature that tears things with its teeth.
I
And
thought
that
it would
sort
be
of
fun
ended
to
up-
do as a kind of cultural translation, because like
Yeah.
the Shi'ogorji is like a very important part of a Lothwi culture, and I was like, oh, dragon, Shi'ogorji, like it kind of works. It's a nice excuse to use this word, but yeah.
But I really want to see your documentation so I can see what Miles had to work with.
See,
Because-
that's the other thing, is that I wasn't sure, again, because I picked a Lothwi because it's really fun to work out, how to build up the derivational elements and try and sort of deduce what they mean just from the classifiers, etc. And so I wasn't sure if I just sort of spell things out completely as like the entire compound or the entire complex with all of
Yeah.
the stuff stacked on and just gave a one-to-one meaning. I thought that would take away some of the fun.
Yeah.
which again I think is very impressive how much Miles managed to decipher from what I gave them.
Yeah, Miles did really well. What did Miles actually turn the monster into? It's like, okay, um, it was
What?
okay.
You were
Where
worried about
what's
using Jesus Christ. You were worried about using magic that the baby used to rip its parents' hands off with teeth.
okay? Yeah, so it's the baby is.
I don't know where the parents came from.
Yeah.
I don't know either. I mean, okay, the baby is tearing something with its teeth. It has to be doing something. It has to be. You have to add something in there. I don't know. I don't know. Jake is not here, or Miles is not here to. Jake is here. Miles is not here. I get you two confused because you're on the same show.
Good.
Maybe it's because so in Ilothwy there's one of the verbal classifier for to do with flesh or body parts. Maybe Miles interpreted body part as like referring to the hand from the previous clause.
It's
But there's a separate
interesting.
classifier for hands, so
Interesting. There's other references to hands creeping in. I think the hands kind of multiply as we go on. And then eventually they get like out of it.
Oh God, it's like even here we already have the tearing off of the hands. If you look at the second last paragraph, it ends with the wiser magicians, without using magic, ripped their own hands off and made the unwise magicians pay for the magic they were given. So we already have the tearing off of the hands here.
Okay, I mean,
yeah, I have no idea where that came
I
from.
guess ripping your own hands off can be a way to be judicious with magic, which is I think what I was going for.
Good.
Somehow.
I mean,
Can't cast spells with
I had the
spell
mages
components.
destroying themselves because I couldn't figure out what Menge meant.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, ripping your hands off is one way to do that.
Yeah.
Strategy. Yeah.
Well, what was the original was so the original was wasted their life essence away, and I think actually what I translated it into in Ndakaga is something like harming harming their living power. Menget yu enchad would be this is yeah. I don't know how much this affected things. But there is a thing of my participles can be adjectives or nouns, but when they are used as nouns, they're defective. They don't have any case marking.
I think that did throw me off.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically because it was a while ago, but there were several points at which I could not figure out if something was supposed to be a noun or a verb.
Judo, I'll have to come up with an incantation for Gore Mage Hand now.
Good.
I maybe we'll do that sometime for a special thing. Yeah. But
can I say something?
yeah.
So at the end, there's a sentence where something like the wise fisherman descended.
Yeah, the wise fisherman descends or something.
Like so notice how at the last torch it's inside a quote, but then it was originally actually in the
Yeah.
next paragraph.
Here we have the
Outside of the
wise
quote.
fisherman descended in the second to last paragraph. Good.
Okay, so we have the druid, and then we have the wise fisherman descended. Where's the descent?
I
I don't even know.
don't know.
Maybe something to
Let
do with
me
Google?
let me find my document because I
Did
think like the word order was a little bit confusing for me with the Dorini.
did Dorini possibly have a metaphorical extension of descend that made it in there and got interpreted literally?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or it might have.
Yeah,
There was flow in there, wasn't there, at some point?
yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. And th- we're still getting. Did we have child murder all the way to the end?
I
'Cause we
think
need
so.
to. Yeah, the trees
Yep.
killed 2 children. The two
Oh
children
God.
could escape. I don't know. The wise runners ran into the water.
Then just
I
the
asked.
old one speaks. That's like appropriately Lovecraftian for this, I think.
It is. Oh God.
I think what happened there was in Hopjam, instead of a pronoun, because classical Chinese stuff, instead of pronoun, I used like the same noun as the fisherman, but then without like
Oh,
the fisher kind of adjective. So it's just the
oh,
man speaks, and then they
Ah,
interpret it
okay.
as like the old man speaks.
okay. Interesting.
Also, what like there is no making sense of this. Like this has my child was born at the time that the sun ate wisdom. Okay, so I killed it on the day that it threatened me that you exist because you can see. Like it
I,
starts off somewhat sane, but then it just loses all sense of meaning.
yeah, it ended up. That is wild. That went in many different directions at once, and I don't know what it means.
The
Another.
Somebody,
descending was
Uh,
synonymous with dwindling, is what happened. Um, and I think it was combined. No, because the escape survived fine. It was it was this descend or dwindle that was a verb, and I don't think I understood exactly what the dwindling interpretation would have been.
okay.
I also want to find out when did the parent begin enjoying evil? Like, suddenly, it's extremely dark because suddenly the parents who like presumably just lost their child are now evil, like they wanted it to happen. Right? I
Yeah,
asked the parent that enjoys evil, how does your good river here? I don't think the parent was evil during mine.
Yeah, no,
I
the
think
uh,
what
parent
happened
wasn't even
was
sort of mentioned in mine.
yeah, I
so
don't
in mine
know.
I had the parents had a nightmare, and then I translate as dreaming like badly, like to have a
Oh,
very
Wow.
okay.
bad dream. So then I guess Kate analyzed it as dreaming to be evil or something.
Mm.
Yeah, bad dream or evil dream is a good one for nightmare.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was, as I say, before this, the only relay that I'd seen was the one at LCC8, which did get pretty crazy at some point. But then immediately after I finished my leg, I went and watched the uh, Let's Have a Booba slash Lang Time relay, and I was really surprised and impressed at how consistent everything was. Like the final text at the end was still recognizably very similar to the initial text.
Yeah. Okay.
But that
Yeah,
one we gave
sometimes it
everyone
does
a
well.
week, and it was much shorter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
that would have been helpful, but
Well, I mean, one thing that I will say is like I'm gonna do a shorter text, and I'm not gonna have another hop gem in the lineup, and but we're probably gonna actually properly enforce like a 2 day rule, maybe a 3 day rule, just to be a little extra um, padding, but like not any more than that. And then like if you don't make it, you get skipped over because that way we can actually get this thing done and release it when I want to release it instead of starting it in June and releasing in November. That's too long a time lag for me. I can't be managing people for that long.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just, I am an extremely patient man, except my patience sometimes gets in my way and causes me to take longer than I expect.
Relatable. Yeah, this is fun. I like it.
Yeah.
This is a like on our Discord server. There's like a telephone like translation channel on there or whatever, where people do just like individual words where they translate them along and along and along. But other than that, I never even like heard of a Conlang Relay before. So this is definitely a good experience. I didn't even know about it. So
It's okay, Kate. You had to deal with Hope Jump.
Oh my god. Got him.
Anyone who has to deal with Hope Jump deserves a little leeway, but I did have to push
Yeah.
you at the end, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, those changes are gonna make, but I am so happy with all of the reception. I will say, okay, I encourage people out there listening to go run their own relays. I'm going to run the YouTube Conlang Relay again next year with the modifications. I don't know if I ever want to give someone else Relay Master. I kind of want to do it again myself to get the rules properly established. And then after that, we can think about whether we want to rotate to somebody else to get more variety. But it is going to remain like a by invitation thing, because I couldn't deal with like having everybody and anybody want to horn in on this. I just want to like contact there's a couple other YouTubers I may contact to try to add to it next year. But but I will but I definitely encourage people to go organize their own, learn from how we did it and how I did it wrong too. And there's also ones that they used to run them on the Conlang mailing list. Every language creation conference has a relay that they do. Sometimes they do two relays, I think. And you know, you could just pop in if you want to run it yourself. You can just pop into any of the communities on Reddit or Facebook or wherever you talk to conlangers or Discord and say, hey, let's run a Conlang relay, and make a text and run it yourself if you could get people to cooperate, right? So it's a really fun thing, and translation is a really good way to develop your conlangs. Even me doing the initial text and trying to translate, I ended up making up a bunch of words and actually figuring out words like that I needed, like how do I talk about a mage? I'm like, okay, well let's go with Insrafu for like a generic one. I think later on I'm gonna get into like the D&D character classes, and probably it's not gonna be 1-to-1 like there's a word for wizard and sorcerer and warlock. I think there's gonna be like I think wizard is a very distinct thing in world, but I think dragons, for example, would consider a draconic origin sorcerer a very different thing from a wild magic sorcerer. Especially since you'd have the draconic ancestry involved there, right? But that's something I will have to think of in the future.
Something I had to do is I had to translate an adverb, and I tried to find the section of the grammar that was about adverbs, and then I realized we didn't have adverbs in Ultra French because I'd never needed them before.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
make
yeah.
up how adverbs work.
Yes. You never needed an adverb before,
No.
so you had to make a whole structure for that.
Yep. So now we have
Yeah.
adverbs, so that's nice. And it
Yeah,
doesn't help
yeah.
that in Ultra French, most adjectives are actually adjective verbs that mean like to be something or to have that quantity, and the actual adjective is then a participle of that thing.
So I want to say, with Ultra French, did you go down the route of some people say like you can possibly analyze modern French as having polypersonal agreement because of the way that the pronoun clitics work, right?
Mhm.
Did you go down that route even further and go like glomming a bunch of stuff onto the verb
Yes.
and making it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the verbs are
Yeah.
selected for, they have agent affixes and patient affixes. Like there is no separate passive, for instance. You can put both an agent and a patient on the verb, and then that encodes all of that information. And that can get a bit messy with some constructions. And you can also combine like an infinitive, an active infinitive, with a passive personal marker. Like it would mean I had to take it or something like that, is what that verb would mean then. And then you can, on top of that, you can add a bunch of other, and also all of those markers are different in the future tense. But the past tenses are additional suffixes that coalesce, and they all coalesce differently. And for the future, there's a difference between consonantal and vocalic stems, and so on. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
my favorite part of conlanging is always morphology, and I think it shows.
That's a lot of people's favorite part of conlaying. I just realized I went over to your slide as you were explaining that, and I'm like realizing this does not illustrate anything at all about what you're saying because it's so different from French
Yeah,
that
no.
I cannot tell where any of this originates.
The worst part for me is always when, because Anwan, the other main person who's working with me in Ultra French, he is French. And the worst part for me is always when he tells me that he can tell where a word comes from or where a construction comes from.
I think if you study it enough and you know how to pronounce things, and you know enough French, then you can pick it out. I think I gave you a guess for where I thought the native name came from. And you said it was totally wrong.
Yeah, the actual name of Ultra French is the French idiom for to throw in the towel.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was like the good language, le bon langue, and you're like, no, that's not what it is.
It's basically surrender, like throw in the towel, surrender.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh goodness. But yeah, it's been a journey. And I have learned a lot about everybody's language. Hey, Schwar! Schwar, do you want to hop on the Zoom and actually talk about your own thing? Or do you want to just like complain in the chat for a while? Let's see if Schwar pops in. I don't know. I am not used to hosting a Zoom meeting. I just felt like it would be the best option for what we need to do here. Like not knowing exactly how many people would be in here, because my other video conferencing option is capped at 8 people, and I'm like, well, there's 13 people in the relay. I don't think all of them are going to show up, but you could get a lot of them. Oh, okay, that's okay, Schwar. We don't need to have everybody on. It's also like too early for David to come on. I know, so.
I typically like using Discord for this, but not everyone is on Discord, so.
Yeah. I don't know. I like seeing people's faces if they're willing to show them. But if you don't want to show that, that's fine. That's not a big deal. But and also, I think I'm not used to how to present on Discord and stuff. I did have a problem with the live streaming add-on in Zoom because it works in such a backwards way. And it's like so buggy that it deleted my stream and I had to redo it.
Brilliant.
And
So, yeah, as a programmer, software is jank. In general, code.
yeah, I've not, at one point I was like about to throw in the towel and just like stream the Zoom thing with OBS because I know how to do OBS. But like when I deleted my stream, I was just panicking. I'm like, okay, I will make a new stream through Zoom and do all the YouTube things on the YouTube side, change the thumbnail and everything, and, and I got it working. But anyway, another thing to learn for next time is figure out how to do this breakdown, because I think it's very useful for people to have all of us now interact now that we know what the text was at the first, and see like have people ask each other questions of like, what exactly happened here? Why is this the way it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. Does anyone have any other thoughts, or do we want to kind of wrap up the stream?
Do another one sometime with a slightly shorter text.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much shorter text. I think I'll limit myself to one paragraph, maybe two. I mean I had like 2.5 paragraphs here, but this was very long paragraph here. And this second paragraph is where it broke down for people, because there's a lot of weirdness in translating English to Inducica in the beginning because of all the numbers and stuff. And I think, and also like me forgetting a word just made it even worse.
Yeah, I will say I do love I think if you go too forward from this one, there's a sentence that's like somewhere in it says 512 magicians did not want it to. Just an oddly specific number out of context.
Yeah, how did that happen?
512. So that came from thousands of there's thousands of magicians that you do not see, right? And talking about how they unwisely use magic and hurt themselves, right? And that became 512 magicians in Inducica because it's base 8.
I see. That makes sense.
It's just so weird out of context here.
Yeah. Which again, you decided to inflict maximum damage on the numbers by translating them literally.
Yeah, one of the many things that I regret.
Listen, that's not a thing to regret though. That's like awesome to see those mutate, and I'm really sad that they didn't end up persisting through further.
Yeah, they're just gone.
Yeah, they just the numbers just disappear in David's torch.
Yep.
And so I don't know what happened there.
I think that may also have been our number system is based on a series of hand gestures. So it may have been that the hands got taken out of context.
Is that where the hands came from?
Wait, did the hands come from numbers?
The hands were numbers?
Have we solved the mystery of the heads being ripped off?
That might be it.
It might be that.
Oh my god. I think it is.
Oh no. See you, Schwar. Schwar is taking a nap.
Oh my god. Okay, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Numbers. Good.
Hands and river. So hands came from a metaphor for that.
Well, no,
that
the word
cut into
for
words.
5 is the same as the word for hand in
Right.
Wow, which is quite
Right.
normal.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
common.
that's super common. If you have any, if you have pental or decimal or vigesimal, which is the vast majority of human languages, then
Well, this is like Chinese,
Yeah.
but without all the stuff from 6 to 9. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
okay, interesting. So we could see like we have hand popping in here through numbers, and rivers coming in possibly from a classifier. Uh,
Where did the suddenly come from?
Suddenly, yeah.
suddenly you have a vision. I don't know.
Mhm.
You count, so you count the use times you use magic on your hand, and then suddenly you have a vision, as if you are prey.
Like God.
So we had the counting metaphor carry through for 3, and then we have David interpret it in a completely different way.
I
Presumably
know
the
the as if
magic
you
went
were
into the
prey
vision.
thing is from a simulative with it's how you would express to be worried.
Oh, okay.
God.
Yeah, okay, so we have a metaphor creeping in. So that's a really good one. The way I have like anxiety and worry is in Ndakaga is it's jubifaki. It's the feeling of being under a storm, because that's the thing that I think would concern dragons the most, make them the most anxious, is being under a storm. Because like for D&D dragons specifically, there's it's really variable what can hurt them. So the different colors have different immunities and stuff. But I think any creature that flies is going to be anxious about being in or under a storm because of turbulence and stuff. Even if they're immune to lightning, they could get blown off course or crash or something, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. But being prey is also a good one, like, because if you are prey, then you are always anxious, as we see with prey animals all around the world getting spooked very easily.
But Miles didn't actually put like prey as being anxious in the lexicon. So I could
Oh,
see how that
yeah.
one in particular, I
And David ended up just not guessing the metaphor and going with it. That works. Yeah.
Something that I was considering, and I don't think I actually did in mine, but in the first sentence where it's clearly, you know, emphasizing caution in Iloth, where you can use the instrumental form of the classifier for large, heavy objects, to mean to do something carefully or ponderously, because it's like you're being weighted
Oh,
down by something. Um, but I don't think I actually did that.
yeah.
But yeah.
I coined this like count your digits um metaphor specifically for this torch. And like I don't know if it's something that dragons use or like an arcane draconic thing like that wizards use at this point. But like it is interesting that in that case, my not documenting the postpositional complements of verbs of perception actually got you, because you said count over digits instead of count your
Yeah,
digits.
that confused me
It's
too.
actually
I was
fada by default means to think, but if you use it with a complement with keet meaning over, then it means to count.
mm,
But you can, I think ba is just for, I think usually I think if you're just thinking about something, use agu from. And
because
there's also, I think there might be a sense that uses ba. I'd have to check my dictionary.
I was confused why it was over. I thought maybe it was like it also could mean upon, like you count upon
Yeah.
your digits or something, so I wasn't sure if I
Yeah.
should translate it like that. So
Yeah. I did deliberately leave that off just to see if it would trip people up. I don't know if that's the proper thing to do, but I just thought it might be funny the way it works. But anyway, I think that is, we could uh Oh, storm gods slay dragons in Earth mythology. Dragons and giants had a war in Forgotten Realms. That's super interesting because I came up with an idea that dragons have a certain level of respect for giants, which they call Fedu, and for like the monologue at the beginning of my Conlang feature, I coined a pejorative term for humanoids, humans, elves, dwarves, and all. That's Ifedu, which is a diminutive attached to the word for giant, because saying, oh, the little giants, the giantlings, the baby giants, as a way of saying, oh, you think you're big, but you're not really that big, huh?
I like
But
that.
I mean, if you're a dragon, they're not really giant, are they?
no, and Fedu just means the creature itself, and it has no association with size, right? So, and then you call these creatures that are look like miniature versions of giants, little giants. I had originally had New Barrel, which means biped, and it's kind of more neutral. And I'm like, this dragon is pissed off and does not like people. I think I need something that's more pejorative. So I coined a new word. Yeah, I think okay, Tessa says boo bye. I think we're veering off course on the relay, but it's been really great talking to you all, you guys, and thank you all for participating. Thank you to everybody who participated and everybody who's watching. And I hope to have this come back bigger and better next year with some things that should make it will run more smoothly. Though I do really like how everything mutated, actually. So
Thank you very
no
much.
worries. Yeah, don't be worried about that.
I will try and redeem myself next time.
You don't. You will be further down in the order, so it might not make sense at all by the time it gets to you anyway.
That's kind of what I'm worried about.
So let's go, and I'm gonna say thank you all for watching. I really need to sort of wrap this up, but it's been great breaking it down with all of you guys who came to the breakdown. It's been great looking at the chat. Everybody's talking about that. I'm really glad for all the excitement about it, and tune in next year for another YouTube Conlang Relay, the second annual YouTube Conlang Relay in 2025. And I promise I will get the year right on the email this time. But yeah, I will write up all the things, and I will be thinking about what I'm going to make my text next time. And in the meantime, I have stuff coming up for Lexember. I'm going to do like a short every day, which I have up to day 23 recorded already. I've edited up to day 11, and so those are going to just be coming out. And if you don't know, Lexember is where you coin a word every day. But I coined them ahead of time because I'm writing spell incantations and I needed words, so I'm just like, okay, I will use those, showcase those during the thing, right? And I have at this time every week. I do tongues and runes. We are making a language for the Feywild or Feyry, however you want to say it. I call it Feyry as I'm doing it, but it's in D&D it's usually called the Feywild. So I'm making the language Sylvan, which is spoken by the Fey, and it's used for spells by druids and rangers. So you can come in if you want to come in. Anybody who's new in the chat here want to come in during this time next week. We will be probably finishing off stuff on noun classes and working on the case system, which is pretty simple. There's 2 cases, and then and that for like the midpoint, and then probably move on to verbs. This is for, and then we're going to be continuing on making, like, this is like a proto-lang that's going to split into dialects and then become a Koine. But anyway, enough explaining about that. But so Tongues and Runes is every Saturday at 8 a.m. Anyone else want to plug their own things before I say goodbye?
I mean, I've got the Curse Conlang Circus. Curse Conlang Circus 3. The voting deadline is tomorrow. Tomorrow
Yeah.
at noon 59.
So better get on that. Go vote in that if you have not. I don't know if people have time to watch any videos at this point. And then sometime in December, you're gonna release the winners of that, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
you
we're gonna
gotta
do
do
the
the
final
judging and
judging.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the top 30 most voted languages will go on to be actually judged, like the same way that we would judge everything the past 2 years, but we're just judging the top 30 this time.
Yeah,
And
instead
then
of
that video will be
120.
released.
And then Jake, every
It's
Wednesday at 3:30.
Wednesdays. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
no idea what the time would be for other people. So
It's
it's
3:30 Central Time. I don't know what time it is for everybody, but like if you
9:30
go to their
UTC.
channel, you'll see the scheduled stream, right?
Yeah.
And then Biblaridian, probably people already know alien biospheres. And
not anymore.
Not well.
I will.
Yes, but you can
I
still
don't
go
care
watch
how
the
much.
videos.
I don't care if I get contacted by some eccentric billionaire or some big, massive studio or some major world government, and they say that they are willing to pay me an infinite amount of money to keep making alien biospheres. I would slap them across the face and tell them, "Get thee gone from my gate, thou jail crow of Mandos."
But it's still great to watch it because it's still there. You can still watch it. But
I mean, you
now
can
guess
if you want to, but
I mean, now you're going to move on to smaller projects, get back into conlanging a little bit, and still do some speculative biology, right?
yeah, I have lots of plans, but predictably, I've just come back from a multi-month-long break, and I was all set to get stuck back into things, and then like 5 or 6 real-life things happened all at once that I'm still kind of dealing with, so progress is still quite slow. But things will happen at some point.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have Kat Missberg.
I don't
you have your
really have
channel.
anything soon, but you can check out my channel.
Yeah.
I don't really make I make videos like really like once a year or like once or twice a year. So yeah.
Definitely check out the Hopjam video so you know what's going on in Kat's leg of the torch. If you can understand that video, because there's parts of it that are it's very well explained, but there has to be a lot of math, I think, in order to fully explain it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, check that out
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
and
I will also throw in just one of the videos that I have planned coming up. Possibly going to be my next video will in fact feature the Shiukorji. So for anyone who read my
Oh.
text and wondered what that actually meant, you'll find out.
yeah. So where is that? The Shiukorji. Shiukorji. Okay.
That
Yeah,
which rends
so
flesh with
that's
its
going to be great.
jaws.
At some point, I will like post this presentation somewhere so people can refer to it. I may collect all of the torches, like the documents people made. I need to like people gave it to me in a bunch of different formats because so that's going to take time to arrange. And then and post that somewhere so that people can actually follow along and see what happened. And the rest of the people, Langtime Studio, that's Thursdays at 4 p.m. my time. It's 2 p.m. on Pacific time. But again, you can
10
look at the
British
scheduled
time.
stream and see what the time is.
Mhm.
And everybody else's channel is in the list on the playlist. Maybe I should copy that and put it in the description on this live stream for people who watch after the fact too. But so you can go check out everybody's channels, not just the relay stuff. You're probably already getting suggested a bunch of things from various linguistics and world building YouTubers already. So thank you all for watching, and happy conlanging. Stop my share. And then stop my stream.